Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only podcast that, like the Cardinals, according to Clayton Kershaw, is Bush League. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Wow.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. Or you can be like in 780 and submit that via the Bird Scored. Thank you in 780 for being a true hero and being a member of the Bird Scored and submitting an opening bit. So thank you for that. Well, I guess, or not, fuck you. We're the show's good now, remember? So
that was a really sharp turn you just had there.
Ain't no Bush League in this house.
All right.
How you doing, Hambone? You feeling? We just spent the weekend hanging out together, fresh off 45 minutes with John Mozeliak. How you doing?
Yeah. Anytime I come back from St. Louis, it feels like the water's thicker out there or something. It's just the pavement's softer. The water's thicker, the beer's everywhere. I would just feel a little slower when I come back from your great state of Missouri. But I'm feeling just fine.
It's a relatively humid weekend, but that is completely dropped since you've left. It's actually been quite beautiful. So you missed it. You missed it by a couple days.
That I feel like you always say something like that, and I don't really believe you.
That's fine. I don't expect you to. We had a pretty interesting experience over the weekend. We've been talking about it leading up to it, but just in case this is your first episode of the show, first of all, welcome. But also we were a part of what's become known as the Blogger and Podcaster Day at Busch Stadium, which is a nice event that we learned the genesis of the event. The Podfather, the blog father himself, C70, is the Blogger Day father as well. As it turns out, he kind of pushed the DeWitts into doing this in the first place, which was fun to learn and not surprising. They've done it now for 13-ish years. I think they've missed a couple here and there, where the Cardinals invite bloggers and podcasters and other people in the sort of fan community out there to come to a game. They put us up in a party suite, and John Mozeliak comes in and spends about 30 minutes, 45 minutes doing sort of a sit-down, open Q&A, which is really nice. And after that, the game starts, and we have an open bar and sort of an open buffet of ballpark food, which is great. And I just want to get out ahead of it, and I want to thank everybody there that was aware of the situation. It was quite protective of me, and I can say unequivocally, I did not burn my hand with hot cheese in front of members of the St. Louis. What?
You're like a toddler. They protected you?
We all have our strengths. We all have our qualities. And you get me around a cheese dispenser and things get a little buck wild sometimes. And so, as you remember last year, I was trying to apply hot cheese to my bratwurst like a true American. And there was a burning. And this year, I avoided that deftly. I think I would say.
Yeah. I'll give you a little bit of credit. I didn't have any of the hot cheese last year. This year I made myself some chicken nachos, and it really does kind of like spit out at you. It's not elegant.
Yeah, it comes out kind of not exactly where you think it's going to and how you think it's going to. So
how you think it's going to, I align with that. I have another question for you though, Nathan. Do you think that John Mozeliak has ever had nacho cheese in his entire life?
I heard there was a similar article that I love where someone wrote whether this was when she was still alive, but does the Queen know who Mario is? And I have to imagine John. He's been around baseball his entire life, basically. He wasn't always,
Just saying, we got up close and personal, and he doesn't. Looking at that suit, looking at that skin, I don't know.
if you ask, do I think John Mozeliak has had nacho cheese in the last 15 years, maybe 20 years? I feel like it's no, you know.
Yeah.
That bow tie needs to be pristine. Although, well, this year this was loose, ready to go. John Mozeliak, he had the button up shirt, but the like top two buttons down. He was looking relaxed, ready to go. So no bow ties or ascots this weekend. But no, I don't think he's had it anytime recently. And
no,
that's his loss, frankly, because nacho cheese is delicious.
That is his loss. Poor guy.
Yeah. So it was it was a really fun event. We roll in there. Hambone looking like he's ready to sell cocaine to everybody there. Me dressed like everybody
comments
else
on that. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I was just trying to be easy breezy.
What was your overall sort of takeaway from the event?
I think everybody went soft on Mo because it's his last year. I thought the question is just a lot of softball questions. Nobody coming in hot on him at all. Which obviously means I disrespect everybody in that room, of course.
Sure.
No, it was great. I mean, it's the coolest thing ever. It's like it's why I do this show, is so that we can get have fun experience with like these with people who are equally sick as us.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's the best. And not to mention, like last year, the Cardinals got destroyed. We had a great baseball game to watch. It was the Yamamoto Eric Fetty game on Saturday. I'm sure people listening watched that game, but it turned out to be a great game. A pitcher's duel. The Cardinals come back. They walk it off. Nolan Arenado walks it off. It was a great game. So great times. Great game. It was great to see C70 get aggressively sung at for his birthday being 2 months away or whatever. Yeah, good times all around.
Yeah. C70 has a milestone birthday coming up later this summer, and other friend of the show, Kyle Reese, made a huge deal about it, getting chants going in the stands, and we sang happy birthday to him. So that was a lot of fun. We obviously got to spend some time with Kyle, who is a ton of fun. It's good to see him. Friend of the show, Jake Wood, hung out with him as well for a while and met a bunch of other people. So overall, it was Kelsey, who I was
Kelsey in real life.
Kelsey in real life. So shout out Kelsey Bird. It was awesome to get to hang out with her in real life. So that was a ton of fun. And again, met some other cool and interesting people. So yeah, like you said, it's one of those things where we've done this show for 3 years now, and like 99.5% of the experience of doing this show is exactly this right now. Me talking to you over the internet, and we put it out, and we have our Patreon, and we have our the Bird Scored, and we have interaction with people. But so much of it is just me and you just sort of putting this out and hoping people are listening. And so these sorts of events are really fun because it does make it feel a lot more real when you're actually like, oh shit, like our stupid little podcast actually has us standing next to John Mozeliak. You and I got a picture with him, and I'm not a big like celebrity hero worship kind of guy. Like,
well, I don't think John Mozeliak is a celebrity by any stretch of the imagination.
For Cardinals, he is, right? He's the most important person in the Cardinal organization over the last 20 years, right? So, like, I mean, in that way.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
people know who he is. I don't think that means celebrity.
Well, I'm not going to litigate the devil. He's an incredibly important member of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh my God.
Some people, well, I guess what I mean to say is like, it's wild to me that our dumb little podcast has gotten us to the point where we're standing next to this guy, and he's pretending to like us and know who we are. Yeah. So it's really fun in that way. It kind of makes it feel more real. And
when we asked to take a photo with him, he goes, "I guess I can't say no, can I?"
Yeah, and then a friend of the show, Brandon, who got to come with us, was fucking around with the camera or whatever, and he goes, "You doing a movie?" And then right when he was done
Um,
with the picture, he's like, I'm out of here, and turned around and left the
yeah,
room as quickly as possible.
that was very smart.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Kyle did a fun thing for him where he got a bobblehead made of him to give to him for his last year, and he took it out of the box and was dressed almost exactly like he was dressed that day. So that was pretty funny as well. But you kind of already touched on it, sort of the I think besides the experience of the whole thing, it was an opportunity for people in our community to ask questions directly to Mazalak, which we don't get a ton of that. So, like you said, for the most part, it was very much, and I kind of anticipated this, it being his last year and all. It was very, very much like, what are your biggest what do you take away from this experience? What should people know about you in this role, and think, what are you going to do next, and things like that, which I thought was reasonable. And he had some funny insights. Someone asked him, what's his biggest regret, and he said the Ozuna trade. Like, well, yeah, reasonable. So he also has a new phrase. I noticed he doesn't say ultimately nearly as much. He was saying net, which essentially is the same thing, but he's replaced ultimately with net. So I guess maybe he listens to the show and hears us saying ultimately a lot. But yeah, it was a pretty casual conversation. He said they are not ready to really make any decisions on the trade deadline, though they are very hopeful to be trying to improve the team at the trade deadline. But they really need to see the next 6 weeks play out before they can really make a decision. So I don't know. Any other takeaways from the conversation?
No, I just shout out Jake Wood he recorded it. He had a fancy little recorder that I was very impressed by. He recorded the conversation and put it on the Viva Alberto's podcast thread. So if you are a sicko like us, go give Jake a listen and listen to that entire recording.
Yeah. Yeah, and one other note, and I think we've been kind of echoing this too as the season has really gone along, is that he just kept repeating how much fun this team is and how every game feels like they're in it, regardless of how the outcome actually ends. Like it's a young team that really is playing well, and they've been blown out, very few times this year, and we've really seen that even in even last night's game, which ultimately ended with a loss. It was still almost a massive comeback, and so I don't know. He just had a lot of hype and energy for the team this year, and I found him pretty just like last year, pretty candid. And it was an overall, it was a fun little conversation. And like you said before, we had an awesome game as the Cardinals managed to take 2 of 3 against the Dodgers, which I don't think any of us really saw coming. Almost didn't go that way with the game we saw, but it was a really fun game. So let's go ahead and jump into some news from the last week. A lot of injury and injury updates. We're really here in the season, aren't we, folks?
Wow.
Hambone, you wanna run us through some of these?
Yeah, I guess so. If I have to, Brendan Donovan exits the loss to the Jays with a toe issue. Marmol was interviewed after the game and said it's kind of the joint in his big toe. You can see that last at bat, he couldn't even get off his backside there. It was hurting him pretty bad, so we took him out. For some reason, the Cardinals and Brendan Donovan opted not to get x-rays on this toe, so find that weird when you want less information, but they're going to let him rest. It seems like he's probably not going to play in Wednesday's game. We're recording before Wednesday's game. I would say with it being a toe, I'm not hyper worried about it, but it is kind of a funny thing. And of course, it happens when he's playing slightly out of position in the outfield because what Gorman's been doing recently. But, you think you could argue, not even that hard, that Donovan's been the most important player on the team this year. So even losing him for a little bit of time is not the coolest thing to do.
Yeah, it always seems like the medical approach for the Cardinals. And I don't know if this is how everybody does it, but they basically only, it seems like they just test for specific problems only when it becomes like the last, like they have to do it because the pain hasn't gone away. And I don't know if that's just something where they're like, well, these guys are always kind of beat up. If you test for everything all the time, you're gonna find something all the time. And so let's not bother testing until we know it's a more long-term problem. But like to your point, you leave the game, your toes killing you. Why not go down and do a quick x-ray just to find out for sure? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much you can do about a broken toe. So I guess maybe that's the other thought of it. It's like if it's broke, it's broke. If it's not, it's not. It's not like you're going to get it like a cast or something. So there are players. I think Mookie Betts is playing through a broken toe right now,
and Lindor, but it's their pinky toes for both.
Yeah.
For both guys, and you don't even really need those.
Isn't the pinky toe like super important for balance?
Well, I don't know, because I've also heard, I think this is interesting, that because of we humans have now been wearing closed-toed shoes for so long that like feet are changing and evolving. And there is a theory that in, over time, humans may end up with like 4 toes rather than 5.
Is this a Nate theory that you've just decided to come up with right now in a game of yes and?
Yes, and it goes perfectly with my theory that eventually all humans. Well, actually, I've got a modified theory now, Hambone, because you've made me think about it a little bit more. Because I've got two competing human evolution theories. There's the one that I talked about on a recent episode, which is that humans are just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually we're going to have like 9-foot tall monsters playing baseball. And is the world ready for that? But I've also discussed that human 2.0 is more the model of me, sleek, quick, can't see very well, light, ready to go. So now I think we're gonna have branching human evolution. We're gonna have the bins, which are these monster, sluggish humans that just are giant and capable of carrying things. And then we're gonna have the small brains of the operations, the Nates, I'll say, and they're gonna probably ride around on the backs of the bins, and sort of control. Makes a
lot of sense.
Yeah,
it's funny for being so slight.
They'll all have 4 toes. I'm not done.
For being as slight as you are, I wouldn't say that you're necessarily light on your feet. You kind of clomp and stomp and stumble around. But I'm going to, instead of hearing your retort, I'm going to say, speaking of 9-foot tall humans, let's talk about Jordan Walker, Nate.
See, that's the bad vision side of it, though, Hambone. That's why we ride around on the backs of the bins.
Sure.
So we don't need to.
Let's talk about Jordan Walker, though.
All right, let's talk about Jordan Walker.
Idiot. You've made everybody dumber today. Jordan Walker is dealing with left wrist inflammation. He went on the IL May 31st. That was retroactive to May 29th. He's expected to return in the middle of this month, so hopefully in a few days. And good news, Nathan. He's showing significant progress. Took batting practice pain-free for a second straight day, per Ali Marmol, and he is going to start a rehab assignment on Thursday, the day this episode comes out. Holy cannoli.
Yeah, I'm glad that everything is turning out to be the way they had hoped it to be so far, at least, that this was very minor and the IL stint wouldn't be very long, and that certainly looks to be the case. I'm a little surprised they're even doing a rehab assignment, but I figure why not, right? Get him a few PAs against that pitching and make sure it's fully healthy. But I'm glad, I'm ready for him to be back. I'm hopeful. We were starting to see. I know you and I were both very cautious about this because it was a very small sample size, and we still weren't seeing like a ton of power. But the plate approach was getting better, and some of the on-field results were getting better as well. So I'm hopeful he can pick up right where he left off. And I think we'll all be glad. Something I did not expect to say. We'll all be glad to have that defense back in right field as well.
Yeah, I mean, watching Burley out there for the last couple of weeks, or not even a couple of weeks, I guess 10 days or so, hasn't been the most inspiring thing of the season. And with him, and I know people like Brendan Donovan in the outfield, but with him and Donovan in the outfield, and it just, or Valade coming in for defense, just not been my favorite rotation right now. The good news is other guys are hitting, so it makes it a little more complicated when Walker comes back, but they're going to find him a spot. He'll be over there in right field. And yeah, definitely agree. I'm looking forward. And man, oh man, I really hope he picks up right where he left off on that approach. And like you said, just hitting the ball hard. Maybe not necessarily in the air, but hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It was one of the more exciting parts of the month, of May was Jordan Walker producing at a relatively high level. I mean, he had like a 900 OPS through most of May. So,
yeah,
pretty excited. And with some of these other injuries, the Cardinals need all the help that they can get to keep this run going.
No doubt. Matthew Liberatore is starting today. We're recording pretty early, obnoxiously early on Wednesday. Too early for me. I hate it.
Well, it is your fault, though. So let's be clear about that.
I didn't think you were going to throw me under the bus like that.
It is a morning record. I got my coffee here. But we're doing all right. We're also dealing with, we got some lag issues going on this record too. So hopefully they're cleared up by now, but maybe the first part of the episode was a little chunky and, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. We're fighting against God this morning is what it feels like, but, Matthew Liberatore, last start, obviously it didn't go super well. He had some quote unquote fatigue related issues. Before he was pulled out of the game, his fastball was sitting around 92 miles per hour, which is obviously not fantastic. Interestingly, the Cardinals did decide to start him today. I wondered if it was going to get pushed back or if he was going to get skipped in the rotation. And I don't want to talk about it too much because I think just watching today's start is going to tell us a lot about where Libby is and if he's going to bounce back, and if it was just a fatigue thing, maybe, I'm sure it was hot that day and sweaty or whatever's going on, but hopefully he bounces back quickly and has a great start against the Jays today.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that he's starting tonight, considering what everything was said after the last start. But I guess I'm kind of glad that he's starting. I guess I have to have some degree of trust, warranted or not, in the the medical department's evaluation of him, and if they feel, despite the fatigue related issues of last week, if he's ready to go, he's ready to go. He's been the best starter or second best starter on the team, and we need it, so I guess go for it.
When it's fatigue, it's like maybe he had a bad lunch, maybe his electrolytes were off. Like you have to, like, especially pitching in St. Louis in the summer, like, this, like, well, you don't know about the pitching part of it, but like it's hot and sweaty, and if you have a bad cheeseburger that day or something like that, it could really like throw you off. Now it taking like 6 to 7 miles off your fastball, I can't relate to that specifically, but I'm assuming this means that the bullpen went well, and he's feeling strong, and we're gonna stay hydrated, and everything's gonna go just fine.
Yeah, so we'll hold our breath, cross our fingers, knock on some wood, cross our legs, do the little potty dance, all the things we got to do in order to be there for Liberatore, because certainly need it. The starting pitching is
him being good.
It's going great.
Him being good has become like one of the most important things for the Cardinals this season.
Yes, this season and beyond. A
to infinity and beyond, really.
Okay.
That was good.
One of the big questions coming into this year was who is going to pitch for the St. Louis Cardinals next year, and Liberatore certainly seems to have established himself as one of the answers. So hopefully, maybe this is just growing pains of a young guy getting used to the starting rotation as well.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out. The Cardinals made another move as they try to bolster the pitching. They have signed right-handed pitcher Zach Plesac to a minor league contract.
Yeah.
Zach it's a kind of a known name if you've been paying attention. He had some time with the Guardians and was kind of hyped at different times. Never really put it together though.
That Cleveland pitching factory though, he's got. Is this a Surfolio move right here? Is Surfolio saying, "Go get my guy, go get my Guardians guy"?
Oh, sure, possibly, because there was a time, not that long ago, where Plesac looked like another, Guardians pitching development win, and didn't quite go that way, which is why the Cardinals are able to get him on a minor league deal here way after the fact, but. Maybe there's some upside here. You have a few notes on what he's been doing recently. You want to run through those?
Yeah, so you may remember the last time Plesac was in the bigs, he was with the Angels, and that was really for a quick cup of coffee. Got kind of beat around. So he's been trying to reestablish his big league viability this year by catching on with the Long Island Ducks in the Atlantic League, which is an independent league. He has done pretty well there. He's got a 2.84 ERA with a 22% strikeout rate over 7 starts with the Ducks. So, if you put the Ducks at somewhere in between AA and AAA, you can kind of extrapolate that out. Like he's probably healthy right now, and that's always good. He has actually already made a start in the for the Cardinals in AAA, which I was surprised by because Matzik has still not thrown a pitch for the Cardinals, which I also thought was interesting. But anyways, Plesac, he started a game earlier this week. He went 4 innings, didn't go extremely well. He gave up 6 hits, 4 earned runs, luckily no homers, and then 2 walks against 2 strikeouts. So I don't think there's too much to glean from this first start. It's his first start with the organization. Hopefully the Cardinals have kind of a prescription for him on what he should be focusing on and working on. And, I kind of have faith in this current regime to potentially find a diamond in the rough. Zach Plesac is not going to be a guy who it clicks in and he becomes your number 2 or number 3 starter. But if you look at the Cardinals over the past month or so, I think that it's clear that they need more arms. And whether this guy is starting games or he's going to come out as a reliever, I think it's a smart pickup. As always, I would rather them swing a little bit harder than literally picking up a flamed out pitching prospect off of a Atlantic League team. You could probably go aim a little bit higher than that. But this guy's 30 years old. He has major league experience. He's been pretty good in Major League Baseball before. But again, this is not our white knight coming to save the day or anything like that.
No, you kind of want both, right? Like I want the Cardinals looking for these sorts of guys. There are stories every year about this guy. Like, oh, he was delivering for Uber and now he's back in the bigs and he's their 8th inning guy or whatever. Like those stories happen, and maybe this is one of them. And I like the Cardinals casting a wide net, looking for talent and really paying attention. So I think that's great. I do agree with you that, hopefully the work that's being done to bolster this pitching staff, which it certainly needs, is not exclusively looking for bargain bin, guys who are now throwing in the Atlantic League. Hopefully we're able to do both, but in a vacuum, I think this makes a lot of sense, and hopefully he can come in and support. So overall happy with it. But yeah, I think we all can see that if the Cardinals are going to maintain this success this year, they're going to need more pitching, specifically starting pitching, which everybody does. I think this is also probably a little bit because while they're both now healthy and throwing, Tink Hence and Quinn Matthews both having injuries at the beginning of the season, completely slowing down their development. I think maybe you had hoped by June, if the Cardinals needed another starter, it would be Quinn Matthews, but it's not. They're not ready for that just yet. So I think they're maybe going out and looking for other guys that could maybe give them some innings and bridge into some of the higher end prospects later in the year.
Yeah, I think especially your point has a lot of validity because Plesac went straight to AAA. He went straight into bolstering that and soaking up innings there. So this could just be a depth piece that never even sees the light of the major league roster, and that's fine too.
Right. Yeah, it's good to have options. All right, so now sitting here on June 11th, the Cardinals are 5 games above 500, so still winning. Had the good series against the Dodgers, have lost the series against the Blue Jays. We'll hopefully avoid the sweep today. Really exciting game last night. Could have gone either way, but it is what it is. So they lost the series against the Blue Jays. We knew this was going to be a tough week of baseball. And frankly, walking away from it, hopefully with a split when you have 3 against the Dodgers and 3 against the Blue Jays. I think we take that.
Blue Jays are hot right now. The blue they are very. I mean, we've seen them the last 2 nights. They are swinging them bats. So yeah, I agree with that. And I think the real headline, and we already talked about it, taking 2 or 3 from the Dodgers. I'm much more that I am going to write that down and pin this Blue Jays series. It's you're catching a hot team at the wrong time. That happens. That's how baseball go.
Yeah, totally. So let's touch on some of the on-field things from the last week. I think we got to start with Nolan Gorman. Hambone, you getting the creams out? Are you feeling it? Are you ready to treat your Gormania? Is it flaring up? How are you feeling about Nolan Gorman?
I am gorming right now.
I'm gorming.
I am gorming. We are partying. It's really fun to have a power bat in the middle of the order. I think I saw last night on the broadcast that he is a home run away or 2 from breaking the Cardinals second base home run record or home runs at the second base position, which is crazy because the start of his career has been so choppy. But it just tells you how much freaking power this guy has when he's in the lineup and he's striking out below 37% like he was last year. It's actually a pretty good player. Nolan Gorman, if you, depending on how you look at his numbers, you could argue that this is the best season of his very young career, but he is walking at the best rate that he's ever done in majors. He's striking out the least he's ever struck out. And as we can see, he's starting to hit the ball over the wall. And he is just one of those guys. There are not many players can truly have this where he can hit a ball and it will go out to the opposite field. He can hit a ball down really line to line, and it can still get out of the ballpark. And if we can keep that, and if we can keep tapping into that, and he keeps starting at second base, we're going to have a lot of fun this summer. And I think he's a guy who could put up, 10 home runs in a month without even breaking a sweat. So it's really fun to see. It obviously adds complications of where does he play and how does it work and how do we put it all together. But I just want this guy to hit so bad. I want it. I want it. I want it.
Well, this is the upside. There's, like you just said, there's no one else on this team that has this sort of power upside. I guess you could maybe argue like a Wilson Contreras could match his home run total, but it's a different type of home run, if that makes sense. And so we'll go into this a little bit later too, Hambone, with the last segment, but the Cardinals need home runs.
Yeah.
They need them desperately. And this guy is your most clear path to having home runs where you weren't getting them before. So him playing well is a huge boon. I wonder too, we talked about this a little bit last week. There will be another, lineup crunch here pretty soon. Even as quickly as Walker coming back would be a pretty clear path to Gorman losing at bats. Of course, Donovan maybe being out, which we don't want. I would not take that swap if given the choice. I would rather have Brendan Donovan playing every day than Nolan Gorman. I don't think that's a crazy take, but him being out gives path to playing time. But if those guys are both back,
I think it's obvious, Nate.
Really.
It's obvious. Ivan Herrera has to be a catcher.
Yeah, That's so. I think there's two paths. It's Ivan Herrera catching and or giving significant more off days to Nolan Arenado, which is kind of what we talked about last week. But still, that's not going to give Gorman everyday playing time. You do still want Arenado out there most days, and he's looked a little better.
I was going to say he's swinging it right now too. That homer he hit, he had a couple of really hard hit balls this week.
Yeah, he did.
Starting to show signs of life there.
So they'll figure it out as it comes, but right now it's hard not to be a little bit excited about Nolan Gorman. And again, when you construct your lineup, like what they need more than anything, honestly, probably more than a high batting average Jordan Walker, you'd rather have a slugging 240 Nolan Gorman with the way this lineup is constructed. It's not an easy swap. They don't really have the same place in the lineup, but like if there's a way to prioritize Gorman right now, you kind of have to.
We've talked about this before. I'm not sure. I think it's been a while since we've talked about it this season, but I still really see the Kyle Schwarber type package for Gorman. And if you can have that kind of batted ball profile at second base, I mean, you're having a lot of fun there. If Kyle Schwarber was the second baseman, he would be contending for MVP every year.
Yeah.
It's a weird way to accrue value. You look at Kyle, but he is a productive player. It's just a little clunky. But I will take that all day. I still think it could be there. I want to believe. Obviously, I'm riding the wave of this hot week right now, this hot week and a half. But that's all I need. I just need a sliver of daylight, and I am fully back on I'm gorming out all over the place.
Well, he's looked so bad at times, and that might just be, it's these high risk, high reward type players, high variance. That just might be him. But I think we all hope it's much more than that. Moving on, Michael McGreevy, who we have, wanted to be in the rotation from the start of the season, did get a start against the Dodgers. Rough start to have to take.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the Dodgers have not been the juggernaut everyone has expected them to be this year, but that's because of the pitching, not because of the hitting. Right. They are the best offense in baseball. And in some measurements, it's not even close. So this is a tough outing for anybody, let alone a young guy like McGreevy. What was your take on McGreevy's start?
I mean, I think over the moon. I don't want to be too excited, but he goes out there, he gives you 6 innings. He doesn't give up a homer. He doesn't give up a walk. He strikes out 5 guys. He did not have his great stuff that game, so this was a gritty gutty performance. Like the fastball wasn't fully there. I thought the sinker was not the best that we'd seen it. But he was commanding the zone. His location looked good. He was keeping guys off balance, and he gave up 4 earned runs. But again, he's a young guy, and it's against the literal Dodgers. It's against the Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer. So I'm not saying give this guy the Cy Young or Rookie of the Year or anything like that, but I was very happy with it. I want to see more of it. If the Cardinals do get back into a 6-man rotation, I think he's the obvious choice to kind of take that spot. And yeah, I've no notes. Obviously, it could go better. But again, 6 innings, no walks, no homers. I feel good about that.
Yeah. I want to save this conversation for another week, maybe next week, maybe the following. But I'm become of the mind that if the Cardinals really do intend to compete this year, they're going to need to make a tough decision or two regarding the starting rotation very soon. And I think one of those decisions may be prioritizing Michael McGreevy over one of a couple guys who started the season in the rotation. 6-man also kind of solves for that, though only in that you get his innings, but not for the other half of the problem. So We'll see. Again, I don't want to go too much into that. I want to see it go for a little bit while longer, but I fear we're near a breaking point or two with this
You don't
rotation.
want to take a little stop and dunk on Miles again for
no,
okay.
I want to move forward. And also Andre Palante. But let's keep going. Let's talk a little bit about Victor Scott, which has been a big topic of conversation over the last couple weeks as we are seeing his first real slump of this year, and really, like, depending on how you view last year and his cup of coffee and whatnot, this year, this is the first real big time struggle we've seen from Victor Scott at the plate in his major league career. What's your take on Victor Scott?
My take is I'm not worried about it yet. I obviously this isn't great. You'd rather him not slump, but this is the kind of guy, like, he's not hitting for a ton of power. He's not a walk machine. He needs to make contact, and when he doesn't make contact, it goes poorly. But I think his value is still held pretty solidly by that excellent base running, and of course the excellent defense and center field. So, like, I was kind of looking into the numbers and hoping that we could do a little, talking about Bird's magic or a bump for Victor Scott, but I don't really see anything that's going like about his process or anything that's going really poorly. I'll say he did go 8 games without a hit, which is just going to make everyone look like the worst player in baseball, at least offensively. So, he broke that streak Tuesday night. So feeling good about that. He, like, really parsing through the numbers and putting up the 5-game rolling average graphs and just desperately trying to find something that was an issue. He is probably swinging at pitches out of the zone a little too much right now. But this is one of those things that kind of, it kind of roller coasters throughout the season. But he's had a few games recently where he's probably swinging out of the zone a little too much. The only thing that I could really find that was noticeable is his ground ball rate. His ground ball rate is the highest it's been all season. And as you could imagine, the more he's hitting balls directly on the ground rather than liners and things just over the infielders' heads, the less success he's going to have, even with that speed. So I really think that this is just the league kind of adjusting to him, or a run of tough pitchers or pitchers that are getting him to ground out. And he's just not being super successful right now. I'm not worried about him, is what I'm trying to say. I think that it'll come around. He's got enough defense to keep him up. If this continues on for another month, then I think we start hitting that big red button about what the heck do we do here. But even with this slump, even with 8 games in a row without getting a hit, I think he only had like 1 walk in that 8-game set too. His WRC plus is still higher than McGreevy than Ciani's was last year. So I think he's going to come back around. I'm not worried about it. I think he's going to make the adjustment. And I also think, like, a little bit of good luck here and there makes us look a lot better. It's hard to go that many games without getting a hit. And he had some high exit velocities. There was, can't remember the number off the top of my head, but there were more than 4 or 5 balls hit 100 miles per hour or harder during that time. And, you run into some bad luck. You have a little bit of bad process, and it looks like the bottom is falling out. But I'm not there yet. I think we're going to be just fine. I think we'll check in on this again. But, he got a hit last night. I think he's going to start. I think he's going to start pulling it around.
Yeah, you said it already. Adjustment, right? This is the standard process for a big league, evolution. He's new to the league. He comes in. He starts hitting pretty well. League starts to figure him out, change the approach. Now it's his turn to change his approach. And the question will come down to, is he able to do that? Is he able to make that adjustment? I looked under the hood a little bit as well. And on top of what you saw, the only thing I could find that stood out to me is that the only pitch he has a positive value on, meaning like this is the only pitch that he produces positive results on, is the 4-seam fastball.
Yeah.
Everything else is either neutral or negative, and it seemed to be, to me, the more movement it has, the more negative it was, and that is kind of normal, especially for a guy with his profile and his first year in the big leagues. You've heard that anecdotally too. Like, the biggest difference between minor league pitching and major league pitching is the movement. And either you adjust or you don't, and we'll see. That they're definitely seems like they're attacking him with movement. That's the name of the game in the modern game, movement or velocity, and he's got to be able to hit it. So hopefully he can make that adjustment. But I'm not worried yet either. It's felt bad. That's a pretty extended streak, but he's young, he's hungry. I think he'll be fine. All right, let's move on, and we're going to talk about the upcoming series and league news and a little game here at the end. But before we get to all that, we, of course, want to remind our listeners that this show is listener supported on patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. You can find all the different tiers we have and the different things we offer to our subscribers. We really appreciate those who have subscribed, and if you're out there considering it, we would love it if you'd go and take a look. A bunch of different perks, but subscribers of any level get access to the Birds Gourd. Mentioned it earlier. That's where people are constantly roasting us, which turns into opening bits, which I appreciate.
It's all content, baby.
Yep, even though the show is good now, we've got a bunch of great people in there talking about the Cardinals, sort of doing like game day chats and posting links and things from around the league as news comes in. So it's a really good way to stay connected to the Cardinals and also speak with some other Cardinal fans and other fans of the show. So check it out, Talking About Birds, or patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We also appreciate anyone and everyone that takes just the minute or so, if that, to take out their little device and leave us a review on their favorite podcast platform. You can write something or just tap those stars. Either way, it really does help. It is still one of the number one ways for shows to grow their reach and to show up more when people start looking for things like Cardinal podcasts online. So we appreciate if you take the time to do that. And of course, podcasts still primarily spread through word of mouth. Now's a great time as we approach the trade deadline. A lot of your friends and family who are not sickos like us, who are following it all day, every day, all week, they're starting to pick it up. You probably have noticed in your personal life as more people are asking you, so how about them Cardinals? It's a great time to recommend the show. Hambone, we've got a lot of links online as well. Where can people find those?
Yeah, we're on all the socials. You can find us at Blue Sky. We're on Instagram. We got a TikTok. We love posting our faces on TikTok. Come and click away with us over there. You can listen to this show on Spotify if you prefer that. You can also watch this show on YouTube and listen to it and watch it, or I guess whatever you want to do. But we're posting entire videos of this podcast on YouTube. You can look at Nate and how cool he is. He wears his sunglasses on his collar. It's the show's good and it's cool. So
a little bit of movie magic for anyone who may have been definitely paying attention to the video feed, as a pair of sunglasses just suddenly appear on my shirt.
Wow.
Because we had to stop down like 8 times during this episode.
This is maybe the worst technical issues we've ever had, but we're fighting through it.
Yeah.
You can find all of that information, except for the stuff about technical issues, at talkingaboutbirds.com. We got t-shirts there as well. You can email us anything to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And of course, you can call us and leave a voicemail or send us a text message to 848-48-BIRDS. That's 848-482-4737.
Yeah, we actually received a message from, let me see if I can find it real quick. I should have prepared for this a little bit more, shouldn't I? So there is a show called St. Louis Cardinals Beyond the Hall of Fame that I have not had a chance to dig into yet, but they've reached out to us, and just seems like a really cool show that focuses on the broader history of the St. Louis Cardinals. So they reached out to us, and if they're listening right now, I owe them a message back, but I wanted to shout out their show. If you're a fan of the history of the game and the Cardinals, seems like this show might be for you. So check that out.
Cool.
Yeah. And text or leave us a voicemail for anything. All right. So Hambone, we have a division series coming up.
Oh my God.
I
They can do
know.
this.
I know. I think when we started the season, we might have penciled this one in as a really early, potential division match, something to really circle on the calendar because we've got 4 at home or in Milwaukee
In Milwaukee.
against the Brewers.
Yeah.
And the Brewers, we're going to dig in on them. They've won the division 2 years in a row. A lot of people picked them to win it this year. They are in basically the exact same spot that the St. Louis Cardinals are. They are a half game back of the Cardinals with a very similar run differential. The Cardinals have plus 26. The Brewers have plus 20. Cubs have plus 108. So they're really battling to stay in the division race, be better than the Cardinals. This series isn't likely a division decider in any way. It's way too early for that. But if the Cardinals want to beat the Cubs, they certainly got to beat the Brewers in a 4-game series. So it's always tough when you go up to the Brewers Stadium. But what are you expecting to see from the Brewers in this series?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the funniest thing is how close these two teams are in the standings and run differential. Right now, it's they're built very differently. The Brewers are they kind of have a funny offense. It's not a great offense, but it's just good enough. And they have the X factor of Jackson Chourio, who we'll talk about. Every time the Brewers come to town or the Cardinals go up to Milwaukee for the next decade, he's that dude. He's 21 years old. He's having a really nice season. He contributes on every facet of the game. And I think that's kind of the Cardinals don't really have a Jackson Chourio. Mason Wynn is great and Gorman is getting hot and Walker might be up there, but he's just that next level guy. So that's always a guy that, I think is worth tagging and paying attention to and avoiding. Soaring and Yelich have had nice seasons. Yelich is kind of waxed and waned as far as his production. He's kind of in a bit of a downslope right now. He missed a couple of games as well, and he's just a DH these days. I also want to call out William Contreras. I think he is every good a bit of a hitter as his brother, if not better. He's a pretty good catcher, and he hasn't really gotten hot yet. Let's hope that kind of sticks around for the time being. But they have some high points. I don't think the team is a great, like a capital G great team, but the Freddie Peraltas and the Jackson Cheerios really kind of keep them in the conversation and I think kind of elevate their ceiling a little bit.
Yeah, William Contreras currently with a 103 WRC plus, which you'd generally be happy from when you consider his defensive prowess. But he's a guy who has typically been 130 plus and has been sort of the center of this team. And you always feel like with a guy like that who's actually especially done it for a couple of years in a row now, it's just a matter of time. So hopefully the Cardinals can hold him off. And even with that 103 WRC plus, that's buoyed by a nearly 350 OBP. So it's really, he's just not hitting the ball for as much power as he has in the past, but he is certainly getting on base still. And when you do have a Chourio and a Yelich, even Rhys Hoskins, he is what he is. Another guy to look out for is Sal Frelick, who isn't going to hit the ball over the wall very much, but hits it all the time and is very, very fast. So they have like a really well-balanced offense, but none of them are right now really, great, if that makes sense. But it's good enough to win them games, especially when Freddie Peralta is pitching. Or I don't think we're going to see him. But they just called up Jacob Misiorowski, who is one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. One of those guys throwing 103 at the end of the game, sort of thing.
God, he is. I think I'm not going that big out or that far out on a ledge by saying this, but I think he is going to be very, very good. And
yes, I think so too.
He is poised for dominance. Another thing to call out is that this is a very stout defensive team. Pretty much all those guys, like you talked about William Contreras' defense, Soaring is a good defender, Chourio is a good defender, Frelick is a good defender, Durbin's a good defender, Joey Ortiz is decent. I mean, it's really Reese Hoskins kind of stinks over there at first, but if you're going to have a position that's not great at defense, that's the one to have. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
good at flashing that leather, Nathan.
Wow. So I am looking at the matchups now, and in fact, they will see Mizorowski. So it
I
looks
was
like
going
the
to say, I
first,
think that's the Thursday game, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
the first tomorrow, it'll be Mizorowski against Gray, Jose Quintana against Fetty, Peralta against Palante, and Priester versus Michaelis. So quite a mix there. You can kind of pick and choose which ones you think the Cardinals have an advantage versus not. But I think any one of these games are winnable against the Brewers, and any one of these games is losable against the Brewers. And
Yeah.
at the Brewer Stadium, it always feels like that place plays like a bandbox when the Cardinals are
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, they're usually fun series, and I'm
I
hopeful that
think
this one is too.
I think Mizorowski, it's he's kind of wild. He's always kind of been wild in the minors. I think he's going to be so excited to make his major league debut that he's going to walk half the Cardinals, and we're going to take that first game and set the tone.
Yeah. I love the prediction. I mean, you got Sonny Gray on the mound, so if ever there was a game for that to line up, that's the one.
Yeah,
So
let's
yeah,
go.
should be hopefully a fun and rewarding series. After that, get a little bit of a break after this sort of gauntlet of terrible matchups or tough matchups rather. And the Cardinals will have the White Sox.
Yeah.
So there, I mean, we are going to still on the road. And I guess they're better than last year,
They are a legitimate baseball team this year. They were
Yeah.
not that last year.
Right. They're still not good though. They're still
No.
one of the worst teams in baseball, but they're not.
Yeah.
It's hilarious the scale we're working at here, right? Definitely still one of the worst in baseball, but not nearly what they were last year. That is reserved solely for the Rockies this year, of course.
Let's go.
But yeah, what do you expect to see out of the White Sox?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're just vastly improved. They have some new faces there. Chase Mydroth is kind of one of those pesky, great approach shortstops, and I think is having a really nice start to the season. Miguel Vargas, who was a nice prospect coming from the Dodgers, is having a nice season. They called up
he's
Kyle Teal.
Sorry, Vargas is the guy who got traded midseason last year to the White Sox, and there's all those pictures of him just looking really sad in the dugout. Which, I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Midseason traded, you're a top Dodgers prospect, and you get traded to the White Sox in the middle of the year that the Dodgers win the World Series, and the White Sox set the record for the worst single season ever. I mean, you can't it's like cartoon bad,
But
like
it is
little rain
But the
cloud
thing,
over him.
if Miguel Vargas and Kyle Teal want to look on the bright side of it, it means that they get to start as many games as they can, and they're going to really, they're going to get they're in the heart of the lineup. They're getting some serious major league playing time. Which, if Teal was on the Red Sox and Vargas was on the Dodgers, that wouldn't be happening. So I say, take advantage. And maybe, I don't know if you're a big fan of Teal or not, but maybe those two guys are the ship turners of this franchise, and they're going to be the stalwarts that make them relevant again. Maybe not, but I think they could do it.
Yeah, Teal has had a pretty good start, only a handful of games, but he's been hitting the ball, so we'll see. Relatively well-regarded prospect. Big part of that trade. He was a centerpiece of that trade. They've got another interesting catcher, Cuero, who's been playing okay, so it'll be interesting to see how they balance those two. But right now, Teal is the one they're sticking with. So, from a pitching standpoint, we got Sean Burke, Davis Martin, Adrian Hauser, and that'll be it for that series. So you may remember Hauser. He used to be a Brewer. I don't know anything about Davis Martin. That might be an opener. They do that over there. I don't know anything about that guy. And Sean Burke is interesting at the least. He can strike people out. He's had some very good starts in his young career. He's also quite wild at times. I think that's usually a pretty good matchup for the Cardinals. They'll have Liberatore, assuming he stays unfatigued in that game. But he's probably the best pitcher of those three. But none of them are particularly running away with it right now. So should be a good series for the Cardinals.
This team is still not good. They are much better than they were last year, but they are still not good.
Yeah, low bar to clear, but they are better, and they're winning some games. Of course, Luis Robert, he still has he's having a interesting year, but you never know with him. He could hit 3 home runs in a game.
I guess I didn't realize how bad Colson Montgomery is. I was going to say, when are we going to see him? But I'm looking at his numbers right now, and he is having a hard time down in the minors. So never mind. We'll move on from that.
Yeah. Yeah. You already mentioned him, but Mydroth has had a pretty interesting start. So
yeah,
there's a few guys, you can start to see the
I'd
shape
buy stock
of
in Mydroth. I like how he's doing it.
Yeah. You can start to see like maybe what a future successful White Sox team might look like, centered around a Vargas and a Mydroth and a Robert if he's still there, though they really should trade him. Feel bad for the guy.
He's starting to hit a little bit, so maybe he will move.
Yeah, certainly feels like this is the deadline to do it. But they also probably said that last year. Should be a good week of games. 7 games. We love it. We love a full week. Let's go ahead and get into some league news. Hambone, what have you got for us?
We'll start with some bummer news. We kind of knew this was coming, but Corbin Burnes is set to undergo Tommy John surgery. They were getting a second opinion last week. That second opinion came back as they're going forward with it. So obviously a huge bummer for that team. Huge bummer for baseball because Corbin Burnes is one of the top 10 pitchers, arguably, in the game. Just stinks to have a guy like that go down for the whole year and next year too, I guess.
Yeah. Feel bad for the butts and cracks. That's the life of a pitcher. So he'll be back in 2027 probably. He'll be 32. So still hopefully plenty of gas left in the tank. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, him and Montgomery down this season is just not how I saw it going for the butts and cracks. Sorry, but I think Zach Gallen's going to turn it around. Merrill Kelly is still really good. Brandon Pfaadt should probably be pitching better than he is right now. I think things shouldn't go too bad for them for the rest of the year if they can get some people getting back to where they should be.
They'll have an interesting choice, much like the Cardinals probably, on what they do at the trade deadline. If they try to keep it going and buy and patch these now gigantic holes, or if they decide to just sort of let it roll and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We already talked about it, so I guess we don't need to talk about it right now. But Mizrowski comes up for the Brewers.
Yep.
He's lanky. He's tall. He throws hard. I'm kind of excited we get to watch his first start, one-on-one like that. That'll be a lot of fun. And other top prospect news, the consensus number 1 prospect in MLB, Roman Anthony, finally gets called up with the Red Sox. The Red Sox, so first off, full stop, very exciting. He's 21. Yes. I think he's the youngest player in MLB right now. There was some video going around the other day of him hitting an almost 500-foot grand slam. Obviously, he seems like he's going to be a good player for a long time. And then the Red Sox kind of in this weird issue where were they messing around with his service time and then he forced their hand? Was this because Devers wouldn't play first base and DH was blocked and they didn't know exactly where to play him? Kind of a weird situation, a weird season for the Red Sox, but I think it's ultimately good. I think the argument of Roman Anthony is not one of the best 9 players in your organization just could no longer be ignored. He was having so much success, and it's just I think good for baseball when players like this are actually in the big leagues.
Yeah, I'm less like conspiracy minded on that as far as like they were manipulating service time sort of thing. I think the Red Sox find themselves in a position that the Cardinals have found themselves in quite frequently over the last handful of years, which is like when you run down that lineup, like who do you actually want to take out? Who would you get rid of? And that's actually a pretty hard hard question to answer for the Red Sox when you kind of like most of those guys, even if they're not necessarily producing right now. You want Christian Campbell in there. You want Wilyer Abreu seems really good. You've got Jarren Duran. You could argue Trevor Story is really struggling and could probably be dropped, but they're paying him and he's got the track record. So I think it really was. They're just like, why do it yet when we like most of the guys? And then it got to the point where it's like he's hitting so well that you just like kind of be damned, like someone's going to lose their job because he's clearly better. So that's at least my take on it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, this was also partially due to injury. They have a pretty stacked IL right now. Tristan Casas, who's of course done for the rest of the year. Bregman is out for at least a couple of months. Wilyer Abreu just went on the IL, and Masataka Yoshida has been on the IL all season. So a lot of talent down there, and it's probably a little bit of this, a little bit of that for as far as him coming up. But excited to watch him play, and like I said, youngest player in baseball, very very fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully he sticks. I mean, like most guys, probably do well, probably struggle a bunch. He's 21 years old, so always fun though.
And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, I just have it written Denzel Clark on the outline here.
Yes.
And I don't know, I might have a new favorite player in MLB. Looking at just the catches that he's made recently, particularly, if you did not see the catch that he made against the Angels the other night, the majority of his body was hanging out of the stadium. I believe that he climbed, it was almost 12 feet or jumped up almost 12 feet in the air to rob a home run. No hyperbole. One of the best catches I've ever seen. I can't believe he could get up that high. I can't believe he made the catch. And it's not the first time he's done this. He's robbed several home runs already. He only has 17 games played in MLB with the A's. And he's an athletic freak. He is really fun to watch. And then, of course, after this guy put it on my radar, I go and look at his minor league numbers, and this guy can hit a little bit. He can steal bases a little bit. And I am rooting for him full-heartedly for him to be able to stick at the major league level, and I want to watch this guy play as much as I can.
It's another cog in the Athletics are kind of an exciting team. The roster, the results aren't quite there yet. They still have plenty of holes that they need to fill, specifically, around pitching. But that offense, it can be fun. And then you get defense like this, like you can kind of see where this team will be a really fun team to watch. Denzel Clark won Catch of the Week his first week. He won Catch of the Week his second week. And he made that catch this week, and that is probably Catch of the Year. Like there may be something else, maybe with more game stakes or something on the line that may end up being Catch of the Year. But as far as physical talent, it's remarkable. I mean, incredible. The timing of the whole thing, the height, all of it, just a truly incredible catch. So if you haven't seen it, you should go see it.
And just chatting about the A's for a second, I feel like we haven't said his name, at least on this show yet, but Jacob Wilson doing some really, really awesome things with the Sacramento, Las Vegas A's. He's hitting 366 right now. He doesn't walk a lot. He doesn't strike out. He's just a super high contact guy. He's also a pretty good shortstop.
Yeah.
They have some really interesting players on their team. They're not playing well right now, but they're fun to watch.
Yeah, Jacob Wilson, I might end up being wrong on this guy because for fantasy purposes, I've talked a lot about Jacob Wilson. I thought he was like another Stephen Kwan, which is good, but 6 home runs a year sort of thing, where it's like he's never gonna be truly elite because
he's already got 8.
Well, and that's where I'm like, oh damn, like he's got one of the slowest bat speeds in the league, yet he's hitting all these dingers, or at least a lot of dingers for that batting average, So I don't know.
It might be the jet stream that's coming over the top of that ballpark out there in Sacramento too.
It very well could be a part of it, that it's ballpark related where his power is coming from, but he's going to play there for 3 years probably. So like, even if it is ballpark related, he has it for a while.
He does. His actual slugging is 520. His expected slugging is 399. That's a pretty big gap.
There's almost no one who swings the bat as slow as he does and gets this amount of slug out of it. So
if we put Luis Arias in Sacramento, do you think he's hitting 30 bombs right now? Is it just that easy?
He's another comp, right? These guys that like really good batting average, but like under the hood, it's like they're slap hitters,
Yeah.
But he's slapped 8 home runs, so I don't know. We could be wrong on this guy, and maybe the power is going to develop and all that. So we'll see.
Not bad. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I got for league news this week, Nady.
All right, Hambone, we are in June 11th. We are past where most people would say small sample size when you start to look at season-long numbers and where a team ranks in those season-long numbers. So I thought it would be interesting to take a look at some high-level stats, some stats that most people are familiar with, and see where the Cardinals stand in the league on these stats. So we're going to play another round of Who Charted League Standings Edition. So I'm going to make this a little tough on you, but I think it's worth it for the game. I'd be surprised if you get any of these exactly right, but we'll see how close you can get. So I'm going to give you a stat, and you need to guess where the Cardinals rank in the league for that stat. Okay. I've got a handful of offensive one, and I've got a handful of pitching, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So where do the Cardinals stand on hits?
On hits.
So if you said, one or first, they have the most hits, third.
So they're definitely, I think their OBP is a little higher than their average. I'm going to guess that their hits is, probably top 10, top 12 in baseball. So I'm going to go on the more positive end of that and say that they are number 9.
Hambone, they are actually 5th in the league.
Wow.
In hits.
Okay.
With 588 hits.
All right. Wow. That's great.
Yeah. Also, Brennan Donovan is at like 100, so he's like almost a fifth of I think I'm a little high on that, but still,
I think you might be. Yeah.
Okay. How about home runs?
Home runs. Okay, so this I think we've been complaining about the power even on this show a little bit, so I think we'll probably lower. I'd say the bottom half for sure. I'm going to say they are number 17 in baseball.
They are the 23rd
in
baseball with 62 total home runs.
Yeah. Who's leading? Do you have that? Is it the Yankees?
I had to refresh a bunch of pages, so I've lost some of my research here. I'll find it while we look up the next one. But I will tell you what I did write down is that the Rockies have 57. So the Cardinals have 5 more home runs than the Rockies.
The Rockies play on the moon. It is insane how bad their offense is. They have everything behind them, and they just can't do it.
Yeah. The Yankees have the most, not super surprising with Judge at 107. And then the Dodgers at 103.
Judge, I was reading an article yesterday that Judge is on pace to set a WRC plus record.
Yeah.
All-time record.
Yeah. We're seeing about as close as you can see to a Barry Bonds type season in the modern game, just like a full step above everybody else. It's crazy.
It is. And he's 33. He's defying everything. He's incredible. I love him.
Yeah.
Go Judge.
Well, there's an interesting thing going on with that. Everyone wants the young player. Everyone loves the young player. The Dodgers have they are the oldest team in baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but they're like an older Hall of Fame. Like we talked about this with Paul Goldschmidt. I'll take an older Hall of Famer over pretty much anyone. There's still a Hall of Famer.
Of course. And obviously, you're like, it's Shohei Ohtani's 30 and Mookie Betts is 32 and Freddie Freeman is 30. But point being, because you're 30 or older doesn't mean you're done. And a lot of teams, a lot of, I think, fans are just looking for the 23-year-old. And it's like, that is so rarely a valuable player. All right. You mentioned it already, on base percentage.
Yeah. This one I expect to be pretty high. If hits were top 5, I'm going to guess that OBP is top 5. So I'm going to say Cardinals are 4th in baseball.
No, they're actually 7th with a
Okay.
328.
Damn.
So they are lower. I will say, they are it's the difference between the Cardinals at 7th and the Diamondbacks, which are 3rd. They are a 333 and the Cardinals are 328. So, 0.005 difference. It's all very clumped up there.
Okay.
But the Yankees again at 345 are at the top.
Yeah. Aaron Judge is currently getting on base at 491 clip, basically half the time.
Yeah, it's insane. Okay. Last offensive stat. This one I did expected WOBA. So I thought this was an interesting one to look at. If you're unfamiliar, 300 is usually kind of the bottom, and it's this all collective stat. The higher, the better. And it looks at underlying numbers. So what should your results have actually been?
Yeah.
Where do the Cardinals land in expected WOBA?
So WOBA, it likes walks. It likes hard hit balls. It does not like strikeouts. So the Cardinals are good at some of those things. I'm going to say that they are 11th in baseball in xWOBA.
It's a good guess. They are 15th. So they are, a lot of people look at this as like, this is ultimately the all-encompassing number to look at for how your team is performing as an offensive unit. And 15th was a little lower than I thought it would be, considering the high degree of on base and hits and whatnot. But I think it's that lack of power that really drags the whole thing down.
For sure. But Gorman's coming to save us from that, so it's all okay.
There we go. Some further context, the Dodgers are leading the league at 357, and the Guardians have the lowest at 300.
The Guardians, it's so, and Jose Ramirez is having such a good year. They're such a funny org.
Yeah. So Cardinals smack dab in the middle there, almost exactly 25 points away from each side. All right, let's move over to pitching.
Right.
Hambone, where are the Cardinals in strikeouts? So strikeouts pitched.
Low. I'm going to say they are 26th.
29th. Hambone.
Oh, I was even being positive to them. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's rough. I was looking, I know Fetty, Michaelis, and Palante are in like the bottom 10 of strikeout rate for starting pitchers right now.
Yeah.
I think Fetty's the worst.
474 total strikeouts. There are some starters who have surpassed 100 at this point in the rest of baseball.
Woof.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Tarek Skubal, I think he passed that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Boy, he'd look good as a Cardinal, wouldn't he?
Oh, man.
All right. Hambone. Hard hit percentage.
Hard hit percentage. That feels like, so we hit the ball hard. It's just not going over the wall. Like, we have the Jordan Walkers.
Well, hold on. This is hard hit percentage.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Given up by our pitchers.
Okay. I actually think that's probably kind of high too. But I'd be guessing a higher number because it's worse. I'm going to say we are 21st in MLB in hard hit percentage given up.
They are 29th also in hard hit percentage.
Oh, no.
43.1%.
Thank God for that defense.
Yeah. So second to last in strikeouts, second to last in hard hit percentage. Okay, let's keep going now. This one's a little tricky. Launch angle. Okay. So if you are first, you're giving up the lowest launch angle. And if you're 30th, then you're giving up the highest launch angle. Now, there's obviously a sweet spot there. High launch angle can be bad also. But, generally, the higher, the lower the launch angle, the worse
more success.
The more success, yes. So where are the Cardinals in launch angle?
I mean, Palante alone, I mean, he's the best in baseball at this. So I think that's going to put them pretty high up there. I think that they're probably top 10. And maybe I'm being too bullish, but I'm going to say they're number 8.
Hambone, they are second in lowest
Oh,
launch
wow.
angle
Okay.
as a staff.
That's how you get away with no strikeouts and hard contact, is being the best at getting the ball on the ground.
So you can kind of see the story that we're telling here, right? They're not striking anyone out. They're not giving up, or they're giving up almost the
Hard
most
contact.
amount of hard contact
Yeah.
in baseball. But that launch angle is low. Everyone's hitting it hard and down.
Yeah.
So, Hambone, how about walks? Walks given up as a staff.
I think this is going to be pretty low too. This is, I've been frustrated by some of the bullpen and their walks, but as a staff, I think they'd be pretty good. I think that I'm going to put them at kind of right in the middle of that top 10 again. I think I'm going to put them at 7 in baseball and walks.
They are third in walks.
There we go. That's another way how you get through all this. Yeah.
Yep. And then finally, home runs allowed.
I'm going to guess this is, I mean, you're not giving up, cookies. You're getting a lot of ground balls, but you are giving up hard contact. I'm going to guess this is lower as well. Give me. No, I'm not going to go. I'm going to go 9th. Give me 9th.
You almost said it, Hambone. They are fourth in.
I almost said 5th. But I was like, no.
I heard the sound.
Yeah.
So they are fourth. They've only given up 55 home runs.
I'll take that. That's great.
55 cheeseburgers, 55 home runs. So, I kind of was looking at this, and I think these tell some interesting stories because we are past small sample size. So the Cardinals get a lot of hits. They get on base. They are top 10 in all of that, but they don't hit the ball hard enough. So overall, they're right in the middle of the pack from an offensive standpoint, which I think we've seen as the team gets a lot of hits, and it feels like they're competitive in every game, but they're not running away with it because they can't seal the deal and score enough runs in some of these games. And they're pitching, giving up loud contact left and right. But because that loud contact is mostly going down, they have an incredible defense. They're not walking many people, and they're not giving up many home runs. The damage is mitigated.
Yeah.
Is this a recipe for sustained success? It doesn't feel like it in the modern game.
Probably not. Yeah.
Most teams are building kind of the opposite, frankly, strike people out and hit home runs, which, I would say not. That's the eye test, like that makes probably the most sense to any fan, is like the best teams hit the most home runs and strike out the most guys. Those are generally the best possible outcomes. But they're winning generally, and they are excelling at a few things that are putting them in the upper half of the pack. So you could look at this two ways. You could look at it as this is not sustainable and this is going to collapse, which I think is a reasonable way to look at this. Or you could say, we know what their target areas are for improvement, and maybe a Nolan Gorman, or maybe the trade deadline starts to round into form a little bit, and we know more specifically what we need to go and get, which frankly is what everybody's going to try to get at the trade deadline. Yeah. Oh, you want pitching that strikes people out, and you want guys who hit home runs? Sure. Okay. Derdoy. But, there's clear needs on this team.
Yeah. I think you can tell the story of, well, if Gorman starts to hit for power and Contreras keeps doing that thing, and Newt and Jordan Walker comes back and starts hitting the ball over the wall, you can see that unfolding pretty well. You can even make an argument for the pitching, when you see Quinn Matthews at some point, when you see more of McGreevy and some of these other guys, maybe Tink Hence goes into the bullpen at some point this year to try to rack up some strikeouts. You could see the path, but I think based on everything we've talked about over the last couple of months and the game we just played, a strikeout pitcher in the bullpen or rotation would really go a long way.
Yep, 100%. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you all again for being here, for sticking with us through this season. Again, tell your friends, tell your family. Check it out. All the links on talkingaboutbirds.com, including links to our Patreon. Again, shout out to the patrons. And we will be back next week, as always, with another episode of Talking About Birds. And until then, I just want to say, go Cardinals.
Hell yeah, brother.